How Are You Feeling? A Story About Emotions by Jo Hall. It was a school night and JoJo Gnome was in bed. He'd finished his hot chocolate, brushed his teeth and had a story read to him by his grandpa. His grandpa then gave him a hug. "Good night, JoJo," he said. And soon JoJo Gnome fell asleep. Next morning, JoJo's alarm went off. He'd plenty of time to eat breakfast and set off for school. JoJo Gnome arrived at school just as the bell rang. JoJo saw his friend Ella the elf and he waved, but she turned her back and walked away. When JoJo got into the classroom, he saw Ella was being comforted by the teacher. It looked like Ella was crying, but he couldn't hear what she or the teacher were saying. JoJo didn't get to speak to Ella as they were put in different groups to build towers made from wooden bricks. JoJo was working with Colin the caterpillar. Beside him, Hattie the hedgehog was working with the pixie twins. "That's perfect," said Hattie, looking at their tower, which was looking a bit wobbly. But the pixie twins didn't listen to her and piled on even more bricks. The tower wibbled and wobbled and wibbled again, and then it crashed. Hattie and the twins started to argue with each other about whose fault it was that the tower had fallen down. JoJo didn't like it when people were arguing and shouting. And now the twins and Hattie weren't speaking to each other. He was friends with all of them. So who was he going to play with at break time? On the way home from school later in the day, JoJo walked really slowly. When he got home, Grandpa Gnome was out in the garden, doing the exercises that he did every day. Grandpa found that doing these made him feel more relaxed and happier. "Come and join in my breathing exercises, JoJo," said Grandpa Gnome. So JoJo Gnome did. They both breathed in through their nose for a count of 4 and out through their mouth for a count of 5. Grandpa even gave JoJo a leaf to hold as he was blowing his breath out slowly so he could see how his breath made the leaf flutter. When JoJo went into the kitchen, Auntie Molly was painting a splodgy picture. "I love painting," said his auntie. "It makes me feel very happy." "Why don't you help me?" she said. JoJo wasn't great at drawing, but he loved painting. After finishing the painting, JoJo felt much better and sat at the table eating his apple. JoJo told Grandpa and Auntie Molly about his day. He told them about Ella not talking to him and about the pixie twins and Hattie falling out. When JoJo had finished talking, Grandpa Gnome spoke. "Ella's your friend, JoJo, and I think you should speak to her and find out what's wrong," said Grandpa. Then Auntie Molly chipped in. "Don't worry about Hattie and the pixie twins, JoJo. That's not your problem to sort out. I'm sure the teacher will have a word with them," she said. "There is something I'd like you to do for me, JoJo," said his grandpa. "Tomorrow there's a new pupil starting at your school called LG. Will you walk them to school?" The next morning, JoJo collected LG and set off to walk to school. LG had been very quiet and then suddenly turned to JoJo. I'm feeling very nervous and I'm not very good at making friends," said LG. "Don't worry, I'll be your friend," said JoJo, smiling. LG still looked worried. "Look, my grandpa taught me to do some special breathing exercises when I feel nervous," said JoJo. "It helps sometimes." and he showed LG how to breathe in for 4 counts through his nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. And out for 5 counts through his mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When they got into the playground, the first thing they heard was laughing. It was the Pixie twins and Hattie Hedgehog who were playing together again. Then JoJo Gnome spotted Ella. She was sitting by herself. Hattie saw JoJo and LG and came over to talk to them. "Come and join our game," she said. JoJo went over to Ella. "Coming to play?" he said to her. Ella shook her head. "I've got some strawberries for snack. Would you like one?" he asked her. She shook her head no again. JoJo walked back to LG and Hattie. "I don't know what to do about Ella," he said. LG looked at JoJo. "Why don't you just go and sit with her? She looks sad and she's your friend," said LG. So JoJo went and sat beside Ella. They sat for a while in silence. And then Ella spoke in a quiet voice. "My mum's in hospital having an operation," she said. The bell rang for morning break. JoJo saw Ella's dad speaking to her at the school gate. Suddenly, she hugged her dad. When she came over, she had a big smile on her face. "My mum's fine," she said. "My dad just told me. Oh, can I have one of your strawberries now?" After break, everyone in the class seemed to be smiling. "Right, I think what we all need to do now is a cheer dance," said Miss, the teacher. "What's a cheer dance?" asked Hattie Hedgehog. "Well, it's a dance that you make up and do sitting down," replied the teacher. "Yippee," said JoJo Gnome. "I love dancing." Everyone was smiling, except LG. "What's wrong, LG?" asked the teacher. "I don't like dancing," said LG, looking worried. "No problem," replied the teacher. "Anyone who doesn't want to dance can just clap along to the music." So the music started. And they all joined in.